Would you just mind sharing with us how it happened, how the Holy Spirit broke into the Bonnke family?
Yes, yes. My father was a pastor, and when I was a teenager, one day I had a look at our family tree and discovered that the Bonnke clan consisted mostly of unbelievers, people who didn't believe in Jesus Christ. And I was so amazed. I said to my father, I said, how did God break into our family? When I think of my grandfather and of you, who are such strong men of faith, how is it possible that the Lord did something so wonderful in your life? And my father told me a story that has really had a mighty effect on my whole life. He said to me that in 1922, my grandfather, his name was August de Bonnke, was very, very sick. They lived somewhere in East Germany. Ostpreußen was the province, East Prussia in very forested area, agricultural, and so on and so on. And my grandfather was so sick, he screamed day and night for pain. Doctors couldn't find what was wrong with him. They couldn't diagnose him. There was no medicine. There was no prayer. There was no hope. And this went on week after week and month after month and year after year. Ceiling pains, they called it. I mean, pains that were almost unbearable. And then one day a miracle happened. An American missionary from Springfield, Missouri, lost his way in the forest and came to our village. And as those early missionaries and evangelists worked in those days, their first question was, when they came to a new village or town, is there anybody sick in this area? And the people said, oh yes, somebody is very sick here. As a matter of fact, you can hear him scream. And this American missionary, his name was Louis Graff. He heard my grandfather scream, and somehow the compassion and mercy of God filled his heart, and he knew why he had lost his way. The Holy Spirit had brought him right here, and some wonderful deliverance would take place. So to cut a long story short, they took him to my grandfather's house. He was lying in bed, writhing in pain. My grandmother was there. He started to preach the gospel. He told them about Jesus, how Jesus saves, how Jesus heals. And then he stepped forward and said, I have been sent to demonstrate the power of the Holy Spirit. He grabbed the hand of my grandfather, and a jolt of power went through the body of my sick grandfather. He jumped out of bed, completely healed. He looked at himself, those swollen wrists and ankles and joints were smooth and pain-free, and he hardly could believe it. He was jumping, he was screaming, he was weeping, he was dancing together with Grandma and praising God for this wonderful miracle that he had done. My grandfather and my grandmother received Jesus that day. But Louis Graff said, I'm not done yet. He said, you still need to receive the baptism into the Holy Spirit. My grandparents had never heard of any thing like that. But they were now ready to receive anything that was mentioned. And Louis Graff laid his hands on them, and the power of God fell on both. And they broke out in new tongues, praising Jesus. And they were filled with the fire and the power of the Holy Spirit. That's how God broke into the Bonnke family.